Well, we are back here on the Mets'd podcast, episode number 12. Of course, you got your co-hosts. We're off to a hot start. I already screwed up. You guys aren't going to hear it, but I said of coast, and that's just not what I meant to say.
So you just said it twice. You said they weren't going to hear it.
Yeah, well, now they hear it because I need to let them know. But we got the co-hosts here, Draftneck Mark Luino, Jeter had no range on Twitter, James Shiano, to talk about Mets baseball. We've had a pretty rambunctious and rowdy week going on in New York Mets baseball. A lot of games going on. We had 4 games in the Cardinals series, which is nice because there is actually a pretty good, decent amount to talk about. Some good, some bad. We have the first shakeup of the coaching staff. Chili Davis has been canned along with Tom Slater.
Yeah.
Slayton? I don't know who this guy is.
I know the last name was Slater, so it counts.
All that we know is that Donnie Stevenson is still around. He hasn't been canned, so that's always a good sign. We talked about him in the last episode. He was a big reason as to why the Mets were able to get some more runs on the board. And while this wasn't necessarily the cleanest series, there is some positive things to take out of the games that we've seen from the Mets. And of course, as they've done all year long, they've pitched really well, which is fantastic to see because, of course, that was probably one of our biggest concerns going into the year. But we've got 4 games to talk about, the Chili Davis news, as well as previewing the Arizona Diamondback series. You guys know where to find us on all our social media, Mets'd Up on Twitter and Instagram, posting a lot of great things over there. And make sure you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. And if you want to watch, we're back on YouTube, youtube.com. Search Mets'd Up Podcast. You'll find the video form there. James, that was a lengthy intro.
Yeah, I was going to say, you went to a lot of content before you gave our social handles. That was the first time all year you've done that.
You know, we're building the intro here. We're trying to become a little more professional. I've been listening to some more podcasts myself, and I'm learning what they're doing, learning the craft here. But I'm ready to just get talking into Mets baseball. I'm sure you are too.
Yeah, let's do it, brother. I mean, this was a jam-packed 4 days of just stuff. It's just a lot of things happen on the field, off the field, in between the lines, outside the lines. I'm ready to get right into game 1.
Which game 1 is weird. Again, just another weird game. This is kind of what the whole series felt like, was a little weird. Lucchesi, I think, is where we kind of have to start it.
Definitely. Lucchesi is someone I was outspokenly worried about preseason. And while I think the Mets haven't really handled him the right way, he's just not very good.
I think our fears, or I should really just say your fears about Lucchesi were 100% correct in that his stuff just isn't that great. And as we've said multiple times on this, like even from the start, we both agreed, I think, that Lucchesi shouldn't see the lineup more than once. He's got to be an opener.
Definitely. During the second time through the lineup last game, when game 1, when it started to get a little bit dicey, Gary said out loud to Keith, he wondered if Lucchesi needed a third pitch, and I laughed out loud sitting on my couch. Like, no shit, this guy needs a third pitch. It's unbelievable that he basically has a fastball that doesn't have a lot of velocity or any movement, and a pitch that no one knows what it is because it's not a curveball. It's kind of a changeup. It might even just be a weird sinker. The guy comes to the mound every single day with not much to give, and he gives everything that it is, but it's just not enough to face Nolan Arenado for a second time in a game.
That was so frustrating to see him get up against Nolan Arenado. And he actually got ahead of him very early too. Like, what was it, 1-2? And then he kind of had that like sort of not really foul tip, which
the fake foul ball, which we'll never know. You can't really tell, but this even feels weird talking about this based on how many things have happened in Mets land in the last 3 days, like since Monday.
So many. It feels like ages ago.
A doubleheader, a rain out, a coach being fired, but still to talk about Lucchesi, like that third inning when shit fell apart was just kind of weird because, like I said, like as a left-handed pitcher, he shouldn't have been had to face Arenado at all. I would say I probably would have thrown a righty to start that game, but to get in that at bat, also with the play before, Goldschmidt dinked in a single, and for some reason the outfield was playing very far back. It seemed to be no doubles, which to play no doubles in the third inning is kind of bizarre. You can hit a double, that's fine.
It's okay.
That's really okay. And then even when it got to 3-2, when you threw that pitch, like just don't throw Nolan Arenado a fastball. Like, where do you want to put that fastball? Like, I don't get it.
Even then, it actually was worse. It was 1-2 still. It wasn't even 3-2 yet. He was still ahead in the count. He kind of threw in, again, like that weird curve, I think, and we saw him crank one foul, which he just missed by inches, of course, because he was a little early on the curve. And I think even Ron or whoever was doing the game at the time was like, oh boy, he just missed that one. And it felt like...
Keith. No Ron these games.
Keith. Okay, so Keith was saying that. And it felt like everybody knew that was there's such thing as a good foul ball, which is like kind of weird to say, but when you see someone as good as Nolan Arenado hit a foul ball like that behind in the count, you go, I don't got a good feeling about this. And then he threw the next pitch and he just obliterated it, which if it seems so obvious. You saw Lucchesi against Arenado, who's a guy he's faced so many times in his career too. Like it just, from any way that you looked at Lucchesi facing Arenado or even Goldschmidt, a guy who he would have faced a decent amount in his career too, being a former Diamondback, it made no sense to have him in there for a third inning, especially when we've seen him pitch all year long and every single time he gets the second time through the lineup, he struggles. Every time.
Literally, and I want to harp on this. I want to say it again. I don't understand why a right-handed heavy lineup like the Cardinals, why we would attack them with a left-handed pitcher.
Who?
The fact
who
that
is
Gesellman
has like Matt Carpenter.
Carpenter's a lefty and Carlson's a switch, and I think Edmonds a switch. But Goldschmidt's righty, Arenado's righty, Tyler O'Neill's righty, Met Killer Paul DeJong is righty. All of the best power hitters in that lineup besides Carlson are right-handed bats. And the way that Sean Reid-Foley looked in his first appearance of the year, the way Gesellman had looked in the previous week, even including this series, and just the fact that Yamamoto existed, which we saw him pitch okay recently, which we'll get to later, I didn't understand the idea of having a left-hand to start this game.
It made no sense.
And it's even stupider because that entire Cardinals rally happened just because the Mets were stubborn, particularly Rojas. And since his spot was leading off the next inning, it seems like they really just wanted to use a pinch hitter rather than bring in a reliever, possibly make a double switch as early as the third, and have to burn an extra guy on the bench because the Mets have been playing with a short bench with injuries to most of the regulars without being put in the IL. My mistake. It's the whole thing was very avoidable, very, very avoidable. Especially in a game when the Mets got up to a lead.
Yeah.
The Mets get so many early inning leads this season. And Pilar had a heads-up play in the second. He took second base. He's been playing great baseball. We kind of ragged on him a little bit early on, but wow, he has...
To our own or credit, we also did say we're ragging on him now, but we wouldn't be surprised that he does something good in a couple weeks. And what do you know? He had a great series.
And to our credit, just to continue to pipe our own horn, we were very happy about the signing in the offseason. Thought it was a great depth move, and it's proved to be. But he had a great heads-up play, taking second on a play where the ball went to a cutoff man, I believe. That forced Mike Schill to intentionally walk VR, and then the Mets got some cheapo runs on a Nito hit by pitch, and then McNeil bases loaded walk, which the bases loaded walk, we should just name this podcast the bases loaded walk because that's the only thing the Mets do.
The Mets love to walk with guys on runners in scoring position. Love a good walk.
Yeah, so it just sucked to have that early lead and to put some runs on the board for what felt like a very rare occasion, and then to just give it up immediately and then just stop hitting the rest of the game.
And it really would have felt like if we got through that inning clean, that the Mets probably would have, honestly, I felt like broke that game open and just kind of been cruising the whole way. Because when Reid-Foley came in, again, did a great job. He's looked really strong.
Really strong. He was cruising. Reid-Foley, they mentioned it in the broadcast, but apparently he's hooked up with Hefner and he has convinced him to throw his four-seamer higher in the zone. Doesn't have a lead velocity, but has above average spin, above average ride. It looks good there. And he plays just the two pitches, the fastball and the slider, and it plays very well in this multi-inning kind of like cleanup role. It's great. It looks like it's something that's like moderately sustainable, which is pretty cool.
And same thing with him. One time through the order, and that's what they do. They give him the one time through the order. You got to be smart with these guys because the reason that they haven't had success in other scenarios is because they're not being used the right way. If you want to have two pitchers go through the lineup once, they can be fine. That's when it comes down to them and their actual quality of pitching, understanding the game. But the second time through the order, these guys are just too talented to go up against dudes who only have two pitches. And let's be honest, both of their two pitches aren't plus by any means.
Yeah, definitely. And it becomes somewhat of a guessing game whenever you get behind in the count. And generally, if you're in one of these roles, it means your command isn't good enough to actually be starting the game. So you will, more often than not, find yourself behind in counts. And good hitters are going to figure it out. The Mets actually planned their pitching super well in this game with Reid-Foley, Gesellman, and Lucchesi. It was just a couple batters too long on Lucchese's part. If they would have gotten Gesellman and Reid-Foley in there ahead of time, this would have gone off very smoothly, and it's actually a good blueprint for bullpen days that we might see for the next couple of weeks or any time that we're down a starter. I didn't feel bad about it. Gesellman looks good.
That's a really good positive spin to it, is that, yes, it didn't necessarily work, but we see the reason why it didn't, and it's so fixable.
No, and just the idea that the Mets are employing a strategy like this that's a little bit innovative and creative. I think it bodes well, rather than actually just battle through with Lucchesi and let him throw 6 innings when he gives up 6 runs. Yeah, the Sensatella special.
Yeah, the Sensatella special. Oh my goodness. Please, no Sensatella specials. But that game overall, weird. And like you said, Gesellman looked good. He's surprised me because he was someone I kind of wrote off a little bit during the offseason and spring training. I just thought Gesellman was the odd man out, and if he wasn't a part of this team, I wouldn't sweat it.
Definitely. I feel like everybody did, but the guy is just a cat. Like, he will not die. It's crazy how many lives Robert Gesellman has. And it's funny because the first 2 weeks of the season, no one heard his name once. He didn't even warm up to relieve. And now it seems like he's warming up every couple of days. Like, he's actually an active part of this bullpen, which is kind of weird how that could change so quickly, but as long as it works, it works.
And so far he has looked really good, so credit to him. A lot of decent little pickups there in the bullpen, but just it really just came down to that Lucchesi inning. That was kind of the difference maker in that game.
Just that one batter, really, just the back-to-back between Goldschmidt and Arenado. And I think kind of underestimated in preseason thinking how much two dominant hitters would work in the middle of a lineup like that, but those guys over and over again this series, just like, it's tough to get those guys out in a row.
Those are two of the more, I don't want to say like talented, but I think like more balanced hitters, I feel like, in baseball. They're just like, they both have good eyes at the plate. They both put the ball in play pretty consistently, and they'll both take the ball to like all fields. They're not just dead pull hitters. They'll hit it to right, they'll hit it to left, they'll spray it around. They have the ability to do a lot offensively, and they're both just extremely comfortable at the plate. They never seem like they're behind or unbalanced.
Yeah, I'm going to give two great baseball quips right here. They're both very good at taking what the pitchers give them. They're very good at that. They love taking what they give them. And those two are both professional hitters.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better myself. Professional hitters. Is Keith Hernandez the new co-host of this? I think you would have loved that. It feels right out of his book.
I listened to a lot of Keith these last couple of days. Keith, just as a quick aside, was gushing over this Cardinals team. Gushing over
Which
them.
you shouldn't be, by the way.
It felt like he wanted to just stay in St. Louis. Like, it's just like, Gary, just leave him there.
Yeah.
He'll announce he'll do a month with the Cardinals, take a sabbatical, sow some oats.
Keith was feeling a little bit of Cardinal love, though, because he got inducted into the Cardinals Hall of Fame as well, which that's awesome.
Definitely was. It was awesome. By the way, did you see his Hall of Fame, like his plot in the outfield?
I didn't.
It's hilarious because the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame is sponsored by Edward Jones, which I think is like a financial company. And Keith Hernandez is written in like these tiny little letters right there, like size 14 font, and it says Edward Jones in size like 24. And he's like, I would have forked over a little bit of cash to get my name bigger.
I know, right? Like, people are going to be going to see it. It's like, who's this Edward Jones guy who got put into the Hall of Fame? I don't remember him playing.
But Keith, I don't know. If I were the Mets, I would like give Keith a side eye right now because he was getting along a little too well with the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't like that.
And that's just like, that's such a team that like would have probably been great like in the 1970s and 80s, the way that they play baseball. Like Tommy Edman, you'd be friggin' Hall of Famer by then if he was playing.
Edman actually looks kind of good this year. He's better than I thought he was. He's hitting the ball much harder than he ever has. He's put on a little muscle. Yeah, I think he went from like career utility guy to like this guy might be a second base.
Okay, there you go, Cardinals fans, if you're listening to this.
Yeah, good for him. And that's the end of my. I have one more compliment for the Cardinals, but I'll save it for the end of the show.
Sure. And then,
but I think, yeah.
Let's talk about after game one because that's where the real news came in here. Chili Davis canned right after the game,
like 11 p.m. Like how weird is that? Even later.
And apparently, like. So you told me something a little bit earlier, and I'll let you talk about it, but like nobody seemed to know originally.
No, it seemed like it was a secret to the team at least. But the other strange part is that this decision was made pre-game in St. Louis. So after, I don't know if we ever found out if Chili Davis was actually in the dugout on Monday night. I'm sure people would have been aware if he wasn't. But on an interview with WFAN the next day with Evan and Carton, Rojas said that management told him before the game that Chili Davis was being fired after the game. Then why not just let him go? I guess you don't want a team that doesn't want to play like that, but that's a very weird... How can you manage a game when you know the coach, possibly sitting a few feet to your right, is about to lose his job?
Also, why bring him to St. Louis then? If he did come with the team.
It's inhumane. That's the Jerry Manuel special.
That's the Willie Randolph special.
Yeah, it possibly was both.
Jerry took over for Willie, but Willie got fired on that trip from L.A., I think.
Yeah, the Angels.
The overnight flight. At 2 a.m., Willie, you're gone. Thanks. Cool.
But that's what happened here, too. We didn't hear about this until almost midnight in the East Coast. And it's really weird for the front office, the way they're handling this Rojas situation, to tell him before the game that he was firing, not ask his opinion, not see what he thought, and not even that they're linked at the hip and they're both being fired, that he was like, if you're killing one of my coaches, you're getting me too. Like, it seemed like there were a couple independent entities working here in this Mets dugout this season, which could have attributed to the poor hitting.
The writing on the wall for me seems like Rojas is on the hot seat. It seems like Chili is the warning shot, a little bit like we saw with Island and Mickey Callaway. I think that Rojas and Chili Davis are kind of in that same regard here, where Chile, the players loved him. The players love Rojas. I think they're saying Chile's gone first. There's your warning. Get this team back together, get them in shape, and you're going to be fine. But if this team continues to underperform, you're next. We'll fire someone 20 games into the season. Guys that people love. A guy who has helped our offense be one of the better ones in the league. Guys like Pete Alonso and JD Davis. He's turned into great hitters, as you mentioned in previous episodes. I saw a tweet, and it was something about how Mets fans didn't want to blame Chili Davis despite all the stuff that was in front of them that was so blatantly wrong. And I think I also fell into that same category because I did like Chili. I thought that he did great stuff back in 2019. Even the team hitting in 2020 statistically did well. Of course, we still know the runners in scoring position is a huge problem. Maybe he doesn't have the most modern take on the game. But it sounds like all the reasons they got fired for wasn't necessarily because he wasn't a good hitting coach or that he wasn't capable of doing his job, but it was more so that it seemed like the Mets and Zach Scott was really disappointed in the preparation that the Mets were coming into games with.
Yeah, definitely. Chili Davis, as we've spoken about a few times, comes from the old school of baseball coaching. And I don't think that's the type of team that Steve Cohen, Zach Scott, Sandy Alderson want to be putting out in the field. Like, it seemed like this was a weird realization I had the other day, but I feel like, just to tie back to all the shit that Brody did for a quick moment in time, while he hired a lot of analytic people who were kind of smart, cunning, industry-like personas, he also did this thing where he hired baseball people. So it's kind of like he wanted to create this half and half for this 75-25 situation where we're going to be analytic and we're going to be smart, but we don't want to be too smart. We got to have a couple baseball guys here to even everything out. And that seems like the worst way to do something like that. And it's also telling because the new hitting coach, Hugh Quattlebaum, is very much not that. I did a deep dive on Quattlebaum over these last couple of days. I wanted to tell some really funny stuff for the listeners at home. I told Mark before the show, give me a couple minutes on Quattlebaum because this guy has an interesting background.
Take front stage here, James. We're giving you the Quattlebaum forum for our viewers.
Great, I love that. But Quattlebaum, very hard to find information on the guy, so I stalked his LinkedIn.
Nice.
Pretty hardcore.
Nice.
And this guy he was a baseball player at Amherst. He ended up playing Major League Baseball. But yeah, while he was in college, he was a liberal arts major, dual with a Spanish major. So that's a thinker. I kind of fuck with a thinker. That's a guy who likes to think about things, consider things, hears all perspectives, he understands information and knowledge. That's cool. He had a quick cup of coffee in the majors, 4 or 5 years, Tigers and Orioles, pretty bad franchises, yada, 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 this and that. After he left the league, he actually took a job in the private sector for a year. He was a production assistant at E! Network.
E! The entertainment news?
E! Exclamation point.
Wow.
Weird, bizarre, and then
it
seems like he did that for a year and was like, just got back into baseball. Seems like that was a very quick move he made. He was a volunteer assistant coach at a community college in Los Angeles for 2 seasons immediately after this. So this man, after playing in the major leagues with a college degree, left a job that probably was making him decent money to grind as a community college assistant coach.
That's a baseball guy.
That's huge. I love that. And then it seems like that kind of reignited his passion, or maybe he learned some things, some tricks. That was kind of at the same time when data in baseball was starting to become a thing in the late 2000s. That's not closer to 3000, but 2008, 2009, 2010, whatever. He became a private hitting instructor. He had a conditioning-based program, company, I forgot what the name was, but he went to people, privately trained them. He used those connections, worked his way up through club and youth coaching, all the way through those ranks until he was an analyst at Duke, hitting analyst for Duke University, a pretty good baseball program in 2016. Then he caught the job after 1 year at Duke as the Mariners hitting coordinator, which I think is the LinkedIn term for hitting coach, unless he was an organizational coordinator, which is possible. Because then he was hired by the Mets this offseason to be the director of hitting for the entire organization. That is a crazy, crazy job. That's very information-based. You have to understand the way the physical science work. You have to understand video analytics. That is a serious, serious gig. And it almost feels like becoming the Major League hitting coach is a step back from that role, which is kind of funny because it seems like they might just be in a pinch and will re-lift Quattlebaum up in the offseason to a more organizational director type role, unless he takes well to Major League team. But I thought that was a very interesting background and very, very, very different from Chili Davis's.
Yeah, no, I think it even goes back to the whole thing of preparation too. Like you said, to be a coordinator of an entire organization, And you have to be able to watch a video and be able to dissect that video and break it down. Because if you're directing the hitting philosophy for an entire organization, you're not just talking about Major League Baseball. You're talking about the 16-year-olds we get from the Dominican Republic. You're talking about the first-round draft picks from college. Like, there are so many different things that you have to be able to handle. So clearly it seems like the Mets trust that this guy has an idea of what hitters should be doing or what hitters should be looking like and what their approach should be in order to be in the best place to be successful. So I really like that. I think they also did mention that this is just going to be interim for him. I think it's very much accepted that he's going to go back to his full-time role after the season. They'll get someone else to be there. So
just think about the word you use there, philosophy. Like, this guy's handling hitting philosophy. Like, that's a wide-ranging concept. That's a very difficult job to handle.
And this goes into a little bit of the Donnie Stevenson talk now, because you put it, like, it makes the Donnie stuff a little weird now, because Donnie Stevenson was clearly like an indirect shot at Chili Davis. It felt like it had to be, right?
Possibly a ricochet shot. The team hasn't really mentioned him much now in these last 2-3 days since Chili was let go. There's been not much less more on social media, nothing else with interviews after the games. That was a weekend too, so guys are having some fun. I get that, but it's gotten kind of mum of the Donnie Stevenson front, which is a little bit bizarre.
It's just weird that they were so Donnie, and then Chili got fired and everyone was upset. All the players were hurt, and that's understandable. Like, I'm sure you like the guy. Whatever he is as a hitting coach, it seems like as a man in the clubhouse, everybody seemed to enjoy his presence. But the whole Donnie thing almost feels like it was a shot at Chili, even though he was their guy. I don't know. It's so bizarre.
It could even have been like an innuendo that Chili made to be like, oh, yeah, I don't think, like, these guys see what goes on in the media. Everyone hears everything. Yeah, like this. I don't like. We don't have a good approach. Like, here's an approach coach. Let's make up an approach coach. Him with Chili. Good. I don't know. It's just very peculiar. And even after Game 2 of this series now, which we'll get into next, they asked Rojas about what it was like for the team to start hitting a little bit. Or that was Game 3, because it was just after the second game of the doubleheader, or maybe in between the doubleheader. I don't remember exactly. But they talked to me. Ross talked to the media, and he specifically mentioned the team had a better approach,
which is something that you haven't really heard Rojas talk about all year.
No, I don't think I've ever heard that word come out of Rojas' mouth, and that's probably nothing. But that's a little bit weird. Like, I don't like Rojas has seen the writing on the wall now. He's a savvy guy. He's been managing teams for a long time, albeit not in the major leagues, not in New York. His father was a very accomplished Major League Baseball manager. This is something that. It's just very Mets. This is very Mets. These weird, like, things going on. These, like, sideshow acts.
Which I was really hoping wouldn't be a part of the Mets anymore. I even, like, texted you about this, and I was like, the Sandy Alderson, like, regime now is just, it's getting more and more confusing, I feel like.
Yeah, it seems kind of weird. Just seems kind of weird.
Because now it seems like Zach Scott, because is he been announced as the full-time GM, or they said that he's going to eventually step back and do a little bit less, and they're going to get someone to fill the actual role that Jared Porter was supposed to have?
Yeah, I truthfully don't even know. I don't even recall.
And honestly, it seems like Zach Scott is basically taking the bull by the horns here and saying, fuck this shit, I'm doing what I want to do now. Because it seems like he wanted Chili out, and he wanted the Slayton, I don't even know what his name is, guy out, and he put in the dudes that he feels are capable of doing the job. The Mets front office, as good as we thought it was going to be, has been a little murky. I don't know. It's been a little confusing.
Yeah, I think the moment that your general manager is fired on with your back up against spring training, it kind of signals that there's going to be a little bit of haphazardness in your front office for at least this coming season. We knew this going in. I didn't really think it'd be in the forefront with strong ownership like Steve Cohen and with a team that I thought would be playing much better, but when the team's playing poorly, people look around, people need to write stories, people need to talk about stuff. These kind of things are going to be an issue at least until this team gets hot. And there's no way to get around that.
Something to keep an eye out for is just what the decision-making is going to be, because now it seems like the philosophy is clear. Analytics. We're going analytical.
Yes, we're going data, information. This is going to be a cutting-edge 21st century baseball team for now and forever, and I support that, honestly.
Listen, if it wins me baseball games, which it does for a lot of other teams, I'm cool. So win us games, play better baseball, let's do it. Which leads us now into Game 2, which wasn't better baseball.
Not better baseball.
No.
This game was gross.
Bad
Seriously
game. Like,
gross.
Kwang Young Kim looked about as uncomfortable as a starter has really looked in a long time against the Mets, but also didn't get hurt.
Yeah, it was such a lock that Kwang Hyun Kim was going to just keep the Mets at bay. Like that was so going to happen. I also want to say about this game, I'm tired of the doubleheaders. I'm starting to really not like the 7 inning thing. I was kind of indifferent to it. I was like, whatever, get more games in, keep innings off the pitcher's arms. That's okay. But there's like this weird palpable stress that begins in like the bottom of the fourth in a 7 inning game. Where you're like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. You're trying to like do the ratios in your head, like how many innings do I have left? What inning is this in 9? I don't like it. It all happens much too quick.
Yeah, the fourth inning should never be stressful in a baseball game, and the fact that that's basically the halfway point is torture. Absolute torture.
It just feels very weird.
It feels rushed, and baseball is not a rush sport.
It feels very rushed. Things are happening too quickly. The fourth and the fifth inning are supposed to be like a calm walk in the park, like some kind of matinee. Like people are supposed to be lax in the fourth and fifth inning. That's supposed to get into the game before the later innings. It's too much happening. But yeah, one cool thing that happened, I think Marcus Stroman listened to this podcast because he heard what I was saying about using his slider more, and he focused on that pitch with one of his best outings of the year in Game 2. He threw 48 sliders the other day.
That's a lot.
More than any of his pitches.
That's so
way
many.
A lot. Almost 49% of the total pitches he threw, so 48, 49, he almost threw 100, yada, 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 whatever. Big slider guy, and I love that. He got 9 whiffs on the slider over 26 swings. That's 35% clip. That's elite for one single pitch. Elite. And he still was loving the sinker. Slider into the sinker made up 84% of his total pitches. Worked, got soft contact with the sinker, got whiffs with the slider. Worked incredibly. I'd still love to see him use the four-seamer more. He threw it, I think, 4 or 5 times. He got 2 swings on it. Both those swings were whiffs. That's a piece. I'd love to see it incorporated. Let him come with his own pace. He's doing good things. He knows what's going on. Stroman's been a big boon to this team so far this year. He's not gotten enough credit.
No, he's looking really strong, and just even more credit to Jeremy Hefner. Again, he keeps sprinkling his magic all over these pitchers, and you can tell they come now to the Mets or wherever Jeremy Hefner has been now in the last 3 years, including with the Twins, and you see he just makes pitchers better.
And how awful the Twins pitching has been since he left is kind of interesting to see.
They stink this year.
Terrible, awful team. I just kind of had a brain blast. I've been thinking about getting a new Mets jersey recently. Lindor's a little too cold to buy the jersey right now. I might get a Hefner jersey.
Get a Hefner jersey, throw it
I'm
back.
sure I can find one of those. I support the coaching staff.
Yes.
I love the coaches.
Get a Quaddle Bomb, too, while you're at it. Why not?
I might get the Quaddle Bomb, too. I'll run with the pitching coach and the hitting coach. If this team starts hitting with Quaddle Bomb, and this guy's showing good process, those are my guys. I'm really confident in the Mets' 2 positional coaches right now.
Yeah, it's definitely good signs. We also saw Jacob Barnes look good again.
Good. He looks good. Jake, something is actually happening in Jacob Barnes.
Maybe this guy just needed to throw. Maybe that's all it was, is that 10-day... Well, actually, let's say this. Shocker, 10 days off in between appearances is not good for a pitcher.
He really could have fooled me, but that cutter he has is freaking cutting. Thing is cutting. It's basically a slider at this point, but he still throws it like almost 90 miles an hour. Like he touches 90, 80, 89 sometimes, so it's kind of like the new slugger, where it's like more controllable than a slider, but cuts a little more than a cutter, but it's still classified as a cutter, and it breaks almost 3 inches more than league average cutter. He almost 6 inches a break, 5.8 exactly, which is the 11th most for any cutter in the league, a few spots ahead of Yu Darvish, who has a very good cutter. Yeah, like this is a little pitch. This guy could be something competent the rest of the season, which is mad.
Yeah, we want this guy to be good, as much as we gave him crap in the beginning of the season for being terrible and said he was awful and didn't want to see him again. Keep proving me wrong, Jacob Barnes. I would love to be wrong about you. Please.
It was emotional response. It happens.
We're Mets fans. We're gonna slip up every once in a while. But the big slip up of this game, of course, and I just I hate this so much. I hate to even bring it up, but Lindor's error, man.
Yeah, it's a backbreaker. Real backbreaker.
He is like, I love him. I still love Francisco Lindor, but oh man, it's not good in Francisco Lindor, New York Mets town right now.
It's not good at all. That error sucked. And you kind of saw like the whole team deflate, like kind of with Francisco when that happened. Because not that he's the emotional leader yet. He hasn't been here long enough, but everyone wants him to do better. Everyone knows how seriously he's taking these struggles. Like it's very clear that he's wearing his play on his sleeve on a daily basis, as he will wear the good play when that happens. And that was just such a bad error, and they got burned for it.
Yeah, I mean, the Young home run is lock in a Mets series.
Yeah, it was going to happen. We definitely called it. I think we called 6 home runs, so he understepped our projections, which we lost 4 innings of baseball, so there's no telling how many he would have hit. But that was just so gonna happen. That one felt more obvious than the Arenado home run after the fake foul ball.
Yeah, that was the nail in the coffin. That was the all right. Move on to game 2. Game 2 of the doubleheader. Game 3 of the series. I'm done with this game. that's pretty much it. There wasn't many redeemable things from game 2. As we said, it was just a gross game. Now, game 2 of the doubleheader, we got some interesting stuff. We saw the first ever use of an opener, really, for the Mets with Miguel Castro. And then we also got to see Jordan Yamamoto make his Mets debut. And that's your boy, of course. So I know you want to talk about him.
Yeah, another one of my boys. I mean, I have no idea how it worked in this game. It just worked. We put out a punt lineup, and we had Jordan Yamamoto following Miguel Castro, which none of that makes sense from a baseball perspective. If you use that configuration outside the park baseball, you'd get annihilated 10 times out of 10, but it just freaking worked. I thought it was weird to use Castro as the opener rather than a different reliever, just because he's one of the better relievers, and I would like to use him in like a high leverage spot in like the 6th or 7th innings of the game like this, but it worked. Whatever. It worked. Don't care. Yamamoto found a way. My guy. I have no clue how. I think it's funny that he's still using his Marlins glove with the Mets. Genesis Cabrera was doing the same thing today, where he had a teal glove, and you're like, oh, former Marlin. It's like you can pick the guys out of a lineup, which is funny. But in 2 2/3 innings, Yamamoto only got 2 whiffs, which is like shockingly low.
Yeah, he just doesn't have stuff to get whiffs.
Yeah, he gave up 4 hard hit balls, which is very high compared to those whiffs in those innings. That's an unsustainable way to pitch, but which is cool, very different than what we talked about with Reed Foley and Lucchesi, is he mixed 6 pitches in just 2 2/3 innings. That's a shocking number of pitches.
Well, that's kind of what's kept Yamamoto relevant or around in Major League Baseball, is that, okay, he doesn't have any plus pitch by any means, not even close. Everything is about average or worse, but he has 6 of them. So he does keep you on your toes a little bit there.
It's crazy. You kind of need to do shit like that when your stuff isn't very good. Like, he's not Kevin Gausman, who throws 2 pitches and has become one of the better pitchers in baseball because one's a 98-mile-an-hour fastball and one's a splitter that starts at your belt and ends at your toes. Like, that's not what Jordan Yamamoto is going to do. But, like, even the first 2 pitches he threw of the game, it was very interesting. It was a right-handed hitter and a right-handed pitcher. He threw a 2-seamer and like a cutter or a slider, and he put them in the exact same spot on the outside corner. And one, it was against Tyler O'Neill, and one just barely nicked the corner, called strike, and the one faded away for a string strike. And I was like, oh, this guy's crafty. I'll give him the crafty label as of right now, and this is a novelty that could actually work for a short period of time.
Now, I'm not sure how Yamamoto's final line look here. I'm gonna look it up as we're going, but I know in the past he's had huge control problems. And for a guy, again, who doesn't have good stuff, that's kind of where you go, what do you do for me? What did he end up doing control-wise in this game? Did he even, like, walks-wise, because
I think he had 1 strikeout, if I'm not mistaken.
He actually did not walk a single batter in his 2 2/3 innings, which is great because he has been a guy who has had issue with walks. For his career, he's like a 1.4 whip. I mean, he gives up a lot of hits, but he also gives up a lot of walks. I mean, he had a 5.6 walk per 9 in 2020, 4.1 in 2019. That's unsustainable for a guy who doesn't strike guys out.
The interesting thing is, if you look back at Yamamoto in the minor leagues, he did not have many walks ever until he got to Double-A and he was averaging like 2-ish, 3. But he maybe could settle into a way. We're talking about Jeremy Hefner sprinkling the fairy dust. A little bit of fairy dust. Get us through 3 innings a week. 3 innings a week, Jordan. That's all we need.
3 innings a week in games that aren't particularly close. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, or in just games where we just need to get lucky because we kind of got lucky in this game. The bench hitters hit.
Yeah, no, the bench hitters hit. We got Villar, Pilar, all the guys. I did it again.
That VR home run was ridiculous. That was I don't know where he found that baseball.
Also made a sick play at the end of the game too.
He made a couple sick plays. I think those were the Derek Jeter specials where you don't have a lot of range, so when you go in the hole and show off the arm, it looks really cool, but really it's not that cool because he made an error today. Where I was like, today, Thursday afternoon. I don't know when you're listening to this, probably Friday for the listeners at home. But you were just waiting for the VR error to come, but waiting for it all year. The guy's just historically not a great fielder. But like, one thing I kind of want to touch on in Game 3 a little bit is Tomas Nido.
He's
that's kind of my guy. He's been hitting kind of well.
Yes, and we talked about it in a previous episode. He had been a good hitter in the minors before. He was regarded as a good hitting, catching prospect when he was younger. He's always looked not particularly great at the plate. The last 3 seasons with the Mets, but we saw a little bit of it last year. He was swinging the bat a little better, and he's continued in 2021.
Doing something. He puts the bat on the ball. Like, I wouldn't hate him getting more at that.
I was just about to say that. I was like, the way McCann is playing offensively, you got to get Nido, I think, a few more at-bats until he proves otherwise. Get him more at-bats.
James McCann has always been a platoon catcher his entire career. I don't know how we could have possibly thought that we should give him, like, 120, 130 game role, and he would succeed in it. He's a great defender. Nido's also a great defender. Those guys both receive the ball very well. It seems the pitching staff likes throwing to both of those guys, but Nido's just putting more bat in the ball right now. And McCann, so help me God, he has come up with the bases loaded in every single at bat this season. Every single one.
It's unbelievable. It's like
it's freaking crazy, man.
For some reason, the eight spot is just hot for bases loaded this year with the Mets.
It's a hotbed.
And
it's unbelievable.
The thing with Nido, too, that's also been really good this year is I saw it on Twitter, and I'll maybe throw it on the screen if I remember when I'm editing this, but I think he has the highest called strike rate in the league among catchers. And they showed, like, his framing has been impeccable. He's been fantastic behind the plate. As someone who loves framing porn, essentially, he's been really, really good at it. And even McCann's been
You love
strong.
framing porn? Do you put it, like, in your room or, like, the living room?
Actually, you guys can't see it, but
the hallway.
All these frames around there. But,
interesting.
But catcher framing, ooh.
Mike likes framing porn.
It gets me going. It gets me all riled up. And he's been framing the ball beautifully. I love a good framing. If you're not going to do something offensively, which he has been, but if you're not going to give me something with the bat, you got to give me something with the glove, and he's been doing it. Both sides.
Definitely. McCann does that too, but this funny little stat about Nido from perusing his baseball savant for about 10 seconds. He had the best pop time in Major League Baseball in 2019.
Tomas Nido.
I like that. That's kind of cool.
That's good. Pop time is important, especially when we used to have catchers like Darno and Plawecki, who physically could not throw out a runner if you put them 10 feet away from second base. So it's good.
And this is like a weird, like very small scale argument here, but Nido is 27 years old right now. So if you're going to get years out of, like peak years out of Nido while he's under team control, this year, next year, the year after that, this is when he should be getting all the at-bats in his entire career. So just give him a couple. He's free.
Also, we haven't talked about it. Jacob deGrom?
Yeah, we didn't talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it because I'm assuming he's pitching Sunday. All signs are pointing he's pitching Sunday. It seemed like, I put out a tweet about this, but the lat that he said was bothering him, it seems like it could have been a reason that he couldn't like tighten his side and his shoulder was flying in his last start. And even though he was still great, that's just not something you want to put a lot of stress under right now. As he's a perfectionist. He doesn't want to go onto the mound when he's less than 100%. So skip the start, whatever. We won the bullpen game. It's okay. Taiwan's been great. We're going to get to that in a second. Stroh's been great. Just get to Sunday. If he's going to have a bullpen tomorrow, by the time you listen to this, probably we'll know. So this entire thing will be useless at that point. But it's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. I was very scared when it happened, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's fine.
And then we got game 4, which happened today. And it was a day game. Taiwan getting another day game, which I know you had a nice little meme on the Instagram there.
Yeah, I don't think many of our listeners watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, apparently. But Taiwan Walker is just the Mets' day man. He is the master of the sun.
Fighter of the night, man. He looked great again. Like, I think all the concerns that and I don't even want to call them concerns, but all the things that you noted from the last start that you should keep an eye out for, it looks like he answered all those questions.
Yeah, he did. He continues to do that. The guy, we said episode after episode, start after start, he is a bulldog. You could feel it in the first inning today, which is much like his start during the home opener. He was just dotting everything, mixing all 4 of his pitches in the first inning of the game, which some pitchers like to do that, some pitchers don't. DeGrom wants to get through the lineup as many times as he can with less pitches. A guy like Taiwan, without that kind of electric stuff, he wants to use them all, prove his control. He struck out the side, touched 96, and I just sat down and was like, all right, we're in for a treat today. He rode that 4-seamer, which the last couple starts I was looking for, and he did it. He also threw his hardest fastball of the game today with his second to last pitch, which for a guy whose velocity has oscillated over the last couple of years, that's a very big deal. He still had the gas and his 91st pitch to pump there. I kind of wanted him to get a couple more innings. I would have thrown him out there to the 8th, possibly the 9th, but because he looked that great. His whiffs were over 20%, which is pretty good. He gave up next to no hard contact, just 3 hard hit balls. Everything was working for him today, and he looked just in control. He even got a base hit. He
got a pinch hit the other day, too, or he got a chance to pinch hit the other day. Taiwan, so to put it in completely different, ideas here, but when you watch DeGrom pitch and you watch him throw, you go, you marvel in it. You go, wow, this guy is he's something special. When you watch Taiwan Walker pitch, that's like a drink a beer and get pumped, or like, yeah, hit the zone, let's go, pump that fastball. Like, he just gets me, I don't know what it is, but watching him throw strikes gives me a sense of enjoyment. I get very excited, and I'm like, fuck yeah, Taiwan, throw that shit. Like, let's go. I don't know what it is. It's just it's the bulldog attitude of he just kind of comes barreling at you a little bit, and you got to deal with it. And he's so far looked really, really good for the Mets, and definitely one of the better acquisitions that we've made in the offseason. Really, again, huge credit to Jeremy Hefner again.
Huge credit, Jeremy Hefner. Jeremy Hefner is amazing. I love Jeremy Hefner.
Can we?
I cannot.
You know how like we signed Francisco Lindor to a 10-year, $341 whatever it was $1 million contract. Can we give Jeremy Hefner like a 10-year deal? Like whoever the manager is, he just stays.
Honestly, anything he wants right now. He just keep the guy going.
If Rojas isn't the guy, whoever it is, if your first move is to not keep Jeremy Hefner, we're gonna have problems. He has to stay. He's unbelievable.
He wants to just be the manager. I look at. He can do anything he wants. Maybe the general manager. I love that guy. I take that back. I'm not going to speak about another man's job. Rojas is fine. I don't know who's really pulling the strings. Yeah, whatever. But Conforto seems to have also figured out his approach at the plate. He walked 7 times this series. Actually, it might have been 8 by the end because I took this note at like the second inning. He is a walking machine right now.
I think his OPS is back to 800 or at least close to it right now.
It is because his on-base percentage is already up near 800.
So we're starting to see Conforto look a little bit more like himself, and that was the thing that we said at the beginning of the year was like he wasn't comfortable at the plate. He was taking the wrong pitches and swinging at the wrong ones, where now it seems to be he still isn't hitting for power. He's still not necessarily getting that gap shots that he's used to, but he's looking a lot more comfortable at the plate, which is a sign forward.
Definitely, and no one's getting those gap shots that we're used to. Like McNeil hit that rocket first pitch today, I think it was, off of into center field, and Bader just flagged it down, made an incredibly difficult play look easy. So no one's really doing it, but at least everyone is taking walks, which is a very strange consolation prize for this team hitting right now. Even as bad as Lindor's been, he finally got off the schneid today. Thank God Lindor broke the streak, but he's been on base in something like 16 out of 19 games or like 17 out of 20, some crazy amount of games he's been on base. So at least we're doing that. We're giving us the opportunity to score. We set the franchise record today for men left on base, which is not something you ever want to hear. I thought it was bizarre that we got around the lineup 6 times. Like McNeil, Lindor, Conforto got six at-bats, and we only had 4 runs.
4. I
can't even fathom that. We had like 25 base runners today.
I got off the plane today, and I open up the box score, and I go, 36 left on base through 8, and I understand, like, technically you can't leave 36 through 8. You can't even leave that through 9. But like the way that MLB.com and their box score does it is, every single batter that comes up has an opportunity to leave X amount of guys on base. 36, no matter how you slice it, I don't feel like I've ever seen that number.
I thought you were just being an asshole when you said that because that was a number that was impossible.
No, it was literally, I took a screenshot and replied to it with someone on Twitter. I was like, no, like MLB.com tracks every single batter. Like if there's bases loaded and you get an out, you left 3 on, and then the next guy could leave 3 on. But it felt like every single guy at least came up with guys on base. We didn't come through again, but we ended up still winning the game, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Lindor had 3 walks, 3 freaking walks in one game. VR had 2. Jonathan VR had 2 walks.
The guy's allergic to walking.
He's allergic to walking. I love that line. You stole that from me?
No, I stole it from Ernie.
I put that blogger up for pitcher list today. Allergic to walks. I love that shit. But the one guy whose approach still has not gotten there, he looks even worse to me than Francisco Lindor, is Dominic Smith.
Yeah, what happened, man?
I referenced it a few episodes ago that we might have been in over our skis with Dom here, but he looks just completely lost at the plate. It was huge. He got that hit today. The only run-scoring hit that the Mets had all day in a win was Dominic Smith, which is super cool, but it was like a seeing eye single. It was just a ground ball that found a hole, so you can't really take that with that much. But his at-bat in the 3rd inning with the bases loaded was a disaster. He swung at the pitch in the dirt, and he swung at the pitch inside. It was awful. He did the same thing in the 5th with a 3-1 pitch. He still drew a walk. That's okay, but I don't know if he's exactly who we thought he was last year.
Dom is showing us the old Dom that we were all down on before he learned how to sleep again. Maybe he's not traveling sleeping with his sleep apnea machine, which if he's not,
he maybe forgot it.
Yeah, maybe he left it on the road or left it at home, but I mean, like, he feels a little off. He feels a little behind on everything. Doesn't feel as sharp as he was, and it's showing in his play and his numbers because his numbers are just, let's be honest, pretty pitiful right now.
Yeah, awful. Really awful.
And that's a guy especially that we need to be clicking.
Yeah, especially when you, add in the fact that his defense is, it's barely average, pretty subpar, if we're being honest. His arm has been a little bit better than I thought, which is kind of funny. Yeah, but he needs to hit. He needs to hit like a middle of the order bat to keep an everyday role, and he needs, especially when Nimmo comes back in a week or 2, he's gonna have to prove it because the way Pilar's hitting, there's a cause to give some more at bats to him
right now. Yeah, I mean, ride the hot hand. He's definitely one of them for sure. We've talked about we didn't want to see him get this many at bats, but if he's gonna play well, sure, keep rolling the dice until he stops.
And he's had a lot of at-bats in recent years and done pretty well with them. So if it had to come to that, it's not the biggest deal.
I think right now, almost against lefties, he's a lock to play. I think, against lefties.
Yeah, definitely. And like he's never been like a very good hitter, but he's at least been near league average. And you couple that with pretty solid defense, although not spectacular anymore. That's a guy who's worthy of a lineup spot. And just to talk about outfield defense, such a huge fuck you to the Cardinals outfield defense. They have incredible outfield defense. All three of those guys, O'Neill, Bader, and Carlson, are young, athletic, good arms. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Bader threw out, I think it was Dom at home plate in Game 1, and we didn't run him the rest of the series. Didn't even consider it. Mets split the series. Going into the series, we said, let's get a split. We got a split. This is fine. This is a good team. Got a split. It's a good split. 4 games on the road.
Hanging around 500.
Didn't face Flaherty, but
hanging around 500, playing bad baseball.
Yep.
That's big.
Hanging around. Don't let the Mets hang around here.
And
because I was going to say it would have been a good thing to get Carrasco back this weekend, but we learned this afternoon that's not going to happen.
no, it seems like Carrasco is not doing well.
Yeah, well, it seems like he's doing fine. This also seems very old Mets, that within 1 hour he was rumored to pitch on Sunday to he's not going to pitch until May 31st at the
Which
earliest.
also happened the last time that he was getting ramped up again to come back. Remember in spring training, they're like, oh, he's back now. He's good. And then he hurts himself in spring training immediately.
It's a hamstring tear for a 34-year-old man. Like, that's all you need to know. This is a difficult injury to come back from. And even if the hamstring is getting near 60, 70, 80%, like, he still needs a spring training. He still has to ramp up and get all of his stuff to where it needs to be. He needs to be getting game shape. A hamstring, you can't do much conditioning at all.
No, and I'll give the Mets, some slack here too. Carrasco was kind of the added bonus in the Francisco Lindor trade. We made that trade to get Francisco Lindor. We happened to get Carlos Carrasco along with him, which was a fantastic move because when he is healthy and on the mound, he would make a huge impact. We just don't know when that's necessarily going to happen. But I think if anyone's mad about trading for Carlos Carrasco and going, oh, here's another one of these guys, get her, like, pump the brakes a little bit here. It wasn't the Carlos Carrasco trade. It was the Francisco Lindor trade that also included Carlos Carrasco. Still an absolute steal for what we did.
Definitely. And I had this take preseason, but the Carrasco is giving you 100 to 120 innings max. So the Mets don't want any chance of him to get such a serious injury that it would still push away that projection, because he still can get a clean 100 innings given what we have left in this season, like 135 games or something. Don't know the exact number. And Mets pitching has not been the issue. The Mets have the 4th lowest earned run average in baseball. Full staff. Like, that's pretty serious stuff. Like, we're not in a situation where we need to be breaking our backs to get Carlos Carrasco back right now. And that's a great luxury to have.
Yeah, no, who would have thought that would have been something we were saying before we started the season, that the offense is struggling and that the pitching is clicking on all cylinders. But
I never even would have comprehended that.
That
honestly.
is what's going on in the 2021 New York Mets world. Let's go ahead and let's keep it positive here. We wanted to do some like monthly award type stuff here on the channel, on the podcast. I call it a channel because I'm so used to YouTube. Have we figured out a name for what we want to do for our award?
I haven't figured out a name. The brain's not been working that well the last couple of days. I'm busy with a lot of stuff, but we're gonna get one. I'm gonna get one soon. I'm gonna think of some kind of pun, something stupid. It's gonna be funny, hopefully. I hope, honestly. Probably. You probably won't hear it if it's not funny, so that's why I got you, Mark. But I kind of just want to give this award. We've been talking a lot about Hefner this week. I wanted to give it to an actual player, even though I kind of want to give it to Hefner. But an unheralded hero for the Mets so far this season is Trevor May. That guy's been lights out, man. Like, what a signing by the team.
Outside the first game, he really has had no issues.
Yeah, and even that first game, there was kind of just some nonsense going on.
Yeah, it was cold, it was windy, it was after the whole Fakakta Washington National Series. Like, there was a lot going wrong there. He hadn't pitched in a while, and since then, Trevor May has been exactly what we signed up for, and he has been a lights-out setup man, leading us to Edwin Diaz, which has been fantastic.
Yeah, definitely, and like I don't even know if he's necessarily like the sharpest right now. His control sometimes erratic, but he just gets everybody out. He makes it to 3 pitches very well. Fastball, changeup, slider. He's pumping 98. It's good. I have tons of faith in Trevor May moving forward. And he is our Met of the Month.
Met of the Month. There we go.
Met of the Month for April.
Love it. Nice and simple, which leads us real quickly into the series that we got here, because this has been a lengthy episode, but we also, we haven't had a good, deep, long episode like this in a while. We got the Arizona Diamondbacks coming to Queens this weekend, which, this is a team that we play.
Yeah, Mets always seem to play Diamondbacks at the end of the season. It kind of feels weird to play them in May. There's not a May team for the Mets.
The last time I remember the Mets playing the Diamondbacks in May was when Matt Harvey hit his first home run as a New York Met. Me and my dad at the game, my dad goes, "Hey Harvey, how about you hit a home run here?" Boom, home run. Weird call
serious?
by my dad to call Matt Harvey to hit a home run.
That's a great call by Mr. Luino. It's also funny because Harvey's first ever start was against the Diamondbacks in Arizona, but that was an August game. Like I'm saying, this is an August team. And it's also funny because our next episode after this Diamondback series, we're going to be going up against Mr. Harvey, and we'll probably have to touch on that for a moment or two. But just to stick with the Diamondbacks, we got to miss Jack Flaherty with the Cardinals, which was huge, but we're not going to miss Zach Gallen. He's pitching tomorrow, later today, if you're listening to this on Friday, against David Peterson. Yeah, so we got Peterson. We're probably going to see Lucchesi again, mixed with Reed Foley, Gazelman, possibly Yamamoto. And then Sunday, hopefully Jacob deGrom. Hopefully that's okay. Jacob deGrom against this guy's name who we're starting against on Sunday is kind of hysterical. It's Riley. Oh, I thought it was a different guy. Never mind. Riley Smith.
Who the hell is Riley Smith?
That's a creative player.
Yeah, that can't be a real dude.
That's computer generated. Riley Smith from Lufkin, Texas.
Lufkin. Nice.
Yeah. It's all whole thing sounds
like some Friday Night Lights. Maybe baseball isn't the right sport there, but this Diamondbacks team kind of. I don't even know how to put it, but there's just not a lot that scares you on this team. A lot like Carson Kelly's playing really, really good baseball, and I do think he is a good
ripping the cover.
I do think he's a good
he's
catcher, but he tends to destroy left-handed pitching more so than right-handed pitching, which doesn't bode well for Lucchesi and Peterson, who are going to be playing. I don't think Ketel Marte is back yet, right?
No, he's still not back. And this team also just got swept by the Marlins, scoring 3 runs, 0 runs, and 1 run in 3 games in a row.
Yeah, I mean, like Eduardo Escobar, who I know you're not a huge fan of, him and Carson Kelly have been like the 2 offensive producers on this team this year. Everybody else has been pretty non-existent.
I don't know. Eduardo Escobar hit, I think, 5 home runs the first 2 weeks of the season, and now he's sitting at 7, which is very Eduardo Escobar, do something like that. David Peralta's still a professional. The guy's good. We're going to get to be reunited with the Ass Man as Asdrubal Cabrera this series. It'll be nice. I'll clap for Asdrubal.
I like Asdrubal. Same thing. He wanted to be traded, but also like I got why he wanted to be traded, and then he took it back and he hit the big home run for us, and he's the man.
Yeah, and he had like a weird month where he like wasn't self-aware and then became self-aware very quickly. And he's given himself an entire new level of his career since doing that, being a second, third baseman.
And he's been good.
Yeah, he still hits. The guy still hits the ball. He's on base right now is 370, which is pretty high.
He basically has a walker with him around the bases, but he can still swing the bat.
Mm-hmm. Two guys in this team. I want all their Mets'd listeners to be aware of this series. Pavin Smith, or maybe Pavin. I think it's Pavin, though. First baseman, corner outfielder type. He's been playing a lot of first for the D-backs with Christian Walker out, fellow Gamecock. That's Mark's alma mater. But guy's a good hitter. He had good numbers in minor leagues. He's never had a spot. He's come up. He's had a nice little 267, 306, 457 slash. That's serious. And the Mark will know this is one of my boys. Josh Rojas has been ripping the cover off the ball for the last 2 weeks since he's really settled into the second base job. He's also playing a little bit of outfield, which that just shows the guy's versatility as a ball player. But the guy showed a little more power than I ever thought he had. He is a baseball player. Those 2 guys, if anyone this Diamondbacks lineup is going to hurt you this week, it'll be Asdrubal, of course, David Peralta, then Pavin Smith, still don't know, and then Josh Rojas, and Carson Kelly, as you mentioned.
And if you're the Mets, the key to beating the Diamondbacks, of course, besides just being better, you are the better team, you got to get to this bullpen. This bullpen is horrendous. The arms that they have in Arizona shouldn't be on many Major League Baseball rosters. Throwing out guys like Steven Crichton. I mean, like
that's a fake name too.
That's not a real person.
You can't say the name Steven Crichton without like sounding angry.
All right, you know what? I'm gonna real quickly. I'm gonna look up who is currently pitching for the Arizona Diamondbacks because this.
Oh no, I'll tell you right now. I have their bullpen pulled up right now. We have Joaquim Soria, which 70. Is shocking that he's still in baseball.
Good,
Chris. Yeah, he's still fine. He's wily. He's one of those relievers. Throws a couple pitches and works. Chris Davinsky, who's never been good. He's like basically a whole decade of not being good. Crichton, not good. Ginkel, who I thought was okay, not good.
Kevin Ginkel.
Yeah, Caleb Smith, failed Marlins starter. He's actually been decent. He's a good lefty out of the pen. Comes with the start of the repertoire into the bullpen. He's okay. Taylor Clark does something similar, but he's not very good at it. Matt Peacock, not good. And then the one guy who's decent-ish. Could be decent, potentially decent. J.P. Bukauskas, one of the big pieces from the Zach Greinke trade from a few years ago, who another failed starter, moving to the pen. But you got to hit these guys. This is nonsense what I'm saying right now.
There's nobody in that bullpen where you go like, oh man, 9th inning, we're in trouble. It's like, ninth inning, this game's a 4-run game, we have a shot.
Yeah, for me to highlight a couple hitters leading into the next series and not pitchers, that means this pitching sucks.
You guys know how much James loved to talk about some random pitchers, although your boy Garrett Whitlock has looked like crap the last few days, but he got shelled by the Tigers the other night. Well,
he got Candelaria. That's my other guy, as you know.
Exactly. Your boys are hopping around the league everywhere. But the Diamondbacks, that's a series we got to win 100%. And I think we will.
Yeah, just crush
I really
these
do
guys.
think we will. I think the Mets bats have been looking a lot more comfortable. We have good pitching that's been going strong. I'm feeling good about the series, and I'm excited to see the Mets at Citi Field again this weekend. James, I think that's going to take us to the end here of episode 12. This is 100% going to be our longest episode yet. But
since the preseason
episode. But listen, we haven't had an episode where I've been at my apartment, you've been at your house. It's been a while. We got comfortable. We talked Mets baseball.
Yeah.
It's good to be back. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to us here on the Mets'd podcast. You know where to find us on social media at Mets'd. Listen to us on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, as well as YouTube, Mets'd podcast. You can search us up there. Doing new episodes after every single series this season. Thank you guys so much for the amazing support on all the episodes. And that's pretty much what we're going to wrap up today. Follow James, Jeter Had No Range. Follow me, Giraffe Neck Mark. And we'll see you all tomorrow, episode 13. This isn't a YouTube video of the Mets'd podcast. Bye.